With 13.6, we're going to talk about the tangent function. We're not going to graph tangent, but I want you to be able to find the tangent of angles, just like we've done sine and cosine without a calculator. The important part is that tangent is sine over cosine, or more importantly, y over x. So our sine, remember when we had our exact value, sine was y, cosine x. Tangent is just going to be our y over x. So always y on top, x on bottom. When we did our standard triangles, remember our short side of our 30, 60, 90 was 1, hypotenuse 2, and across from our 60, our long leg is a square root of 3. Our 45, 45, each leg is 1, hypotenuse is square root of 2. And then on our unit circle, we have our points 1, 0, 0, 1, negative 1, 0, and 0, negative 1. Okay, that's just a quick recap of things that will help us as we go through and find our tangents. So tangent of 5 pi over 6, 5 over 6 is not completely 1, so I am just pi over 6 short. So my pi over 6 is 30 degrees. So I'm 30 degrees short of my 180. And then the same thing we've been doing, except for we are not going to use our half square root of 3 over 2. You can if you want, but when we divide them, those halves go away anyway. So we're going to use these standard triangles. Because like I said, if I take a half divided by a square root of 3 over 2, it's just the same as 2 over square root of 3. So we're not even going to bother with the halves anymore. We're going to use those standard triangles. Across from my 30 is 1. Across from my 60 is square root of 3. That's still negative. We still care about our coordinates, positive, negative. So if I'm looking at the tangent of my angle, remember that y over x, my y coordinate is 1, my x coordinate is negative square root of 3. That is our answer, but can't have square roots on the bottom. So negative square root of 3 over 3 is our answer. Again, half divided by square root of 3 over 2, you can still do that. It's just the same. Our 2's on the bottom are going to cancel, so we're going to have 1 over the square root of 3. Tangent of negative pi over 2, this one's going to look kind of weird. Pi over 2 is 90, going negative, so I'm down here, which is the point 0, negative 1. If I take my y coordinate, so I'm finding tan, y over x, y coordinate negative 1 over my x, which is 0, can't divide by 0, so for our tangent, we just say undefined. Can't find the tangent of negative 90, which kind of makes sense because there's like no angle here. I'm not sure if you put in your calculator, like a math there probably, but we're smarter than calculators, so it's okay. Alright, 7 pi over 4 is just pi over 4 short of being 2 pi. So I have a 45-degree angle here. My sides, again, using my standard triangle, my legs are each 1. So my tangent is, now this is negative. Negative, okay, so my y over x, which simplifies to negative 1. So my tan is negative 1. Okay. that is all that we are doing for 13.6. 13.8 is about our reciprocal functions, our cosecant, secant, and cotangent. If you look at this key part, we have cosecant is 1 over sine. So sine is our y. So if I take 1 over y, I'm finding cosecant. My secant is 1 over cosine. Cosine is 1 over, cosine is x, so my secant is 1 over x. And then cotangent is 1 over our tangent. Well, our tangent is y over x. So 1 over that, we're just going to flip it x over y. Okay. Now, that is probably extremely confusing. So we're also going to write it like this. Our cosecant. Now, that's the opposite of sine. If you remember, sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So cosecant is just a flipped version of that. We're going to have our hypotenuse over our opposite side. Okay? Secant is the opposite, I shouldn't say it, yeah, opposite of our cosine. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So our secant is just going to be our hypotenuse over our adjacent. And then our cotangent is the flip version of tangent. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. So our cotangent is adjacent over opposite. Okay. Now I know it's a lot. Trust me, we will get practice with this, so don't freak out too much. Again, without a calculator, we have first one, cosecant. I'm just going to write sine just so I know which one it goes with. What I would do is find the sine and then just put a 1 over it. Finding cosecant right away, I don't know if your brain works like that, awesome. Mine really doesn't. Pi over 3 is the same as 60 degrees. So I'm making a 60-degree angle. Again, we're just going to use that standard triangle. So across from 60, I have square root of 3. Across from 31, then my hypotenuse 2. So my sine of this angle is my opposite of 60, so square root of 3, over my hypotenuse, which is 2. Okay, so to find cosecant, I'm going to flip that. So 2 over the square root of 3. Okay, if you don't need this sine step, that's fine. I 1,000% need it because my brain just doesn't work like that. Okay, problem with this, can't leave square roots on the bottom, so my math answer, 2 square roots of 3 over 3. Cotangent of negative 5 pi over 4. So I'm more than 1. So more than 90. I'm pi over 4 more. So I'm up here at 45 because I got a negative. Okay, again, using our standard. This is a negative 1. This is 1. This is square root of 2. Cotangent is adjacent over hypotenuse. So if you want to memorize those, you sure can. Adjacent is negative 1, hypotenuse square root of 2. Can't have square roots on the bottom. I'm sorry. Not hypotenuse. I'm like, what the heck? Adjacent over opposite. Sorry about that. So negative 1. So my cotangent is just negative 1. Coincidentally, your tangent is also negative 1, but 1 divided by 1 is always 1. So when you flip it, it doesn't really change. So I really like cotangent and tangent. Our secant. Secant is opposite cosine. And we have 3 pi. Well, 3 pi, 2 pi is once around. So 3 pi, I'm just at the same as 180. Okay, I'm at the same as pi. Our pictures look exactly the same as pi. Remember, this is a coterminal angle. Some vocab. This point, -1, 0. So our cosine is always our x value, and secant is just 1 over our cosine. So it's just 1 over our x value. Well, our x is -1, so I have 1 over -1, so I just have -1 as my secant. So secant equals -1. And our cosecant is friends with sine. I have -7 pi over 6, so I am more than 180, but negative, so I'm going this way. So I'm up here. Pi over 6 is 30 degrees, so I got 30 degrees right here. Cross with 30 is 1, square root of 3, 2. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse, so my cosecant has to be flipped. So cosecant is hypotenuse over my opposite side. 30 looks like it's in the middle. 30 is right here. That confused you. So our hypotenuse is 2, opposite side is 1, so my cosecant is just 2. Okay. Make sure you're pausing this video as needed. I definitely don't expect you to be going as fast as me. Just make sure you slow down and actually understand what's going on. This does just calculator stuff. You don't have cotangent, cosecant, and secant buttons on your calculator. So what we do is we just take 1 divided by whatever your function that it's paired with is. So cotangent's pair is tangent. So I'm going to take the tan of 82 and just take 1 divided by that. Some calculators, you can just type in 1 divided by the tan of 82 and it's fine. Some, I think, you maybe need parentheses around this. Just figure out what works with your calculator. The answer you should get is 0.141. Round your answers to the nearest thousands. That's why I went out so far. Also check to be sure your calculator is in degrees, or with these, they need to be in radians. Okay, or you can transfer them to degrees or radians, whichever one your calculator's in. Secant is friends with cosine, so I'm just going to 1 over the cosine of 15. When I put that in my calculator, I get 1.035. Cosecant of 6.5. There's not a degree sign here. That's not existent. So it is a radian. Well, I like to keep my calculator in degrees. So I'm going to switch this to degrees, from radians to degrees. So I'm going to divide by pi times by 180. That gives me 372.4. Cosecant is friends with sine, so I'm taking 1 over the sine of 372.4, and that gives me 4.649. And our last one, secant, that's friends with cosine, so I got 1 over the cosine. 3 pi over 2, those of you that know your stuff, you know that's 270. If not, convert it like we did C. The 1 over the cosine of 270, you can put in your calculator. Figure it out. Last one, problem 3. It tells me that I have a line of sight with this angle right here. It says that the distance in feet of an object from the observer is given by this function. Okay, so this d right here is 553 secant of theta. Okay, height of my tower is 553 feet. It says how far away are the objects at both angles of 50 and 80. Okay, reciprocal rule, just what is paired with secant. Secant is opposite cosine. So all I'm doing is taking my 1 over cosine, plugging it in for secant of my angles, both 50 and 80. So the first one, I'm going to take 553 times 1 over the cosine of 50, which is 860.3 feet. And the next one, I'm going to take 553 times 1 over the cosine of 80, which is 3,184.6 feet. Doesn't tell what to do with it, just asks what the distance is.